Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, and I kind of want to talk about why nostalgia is so much of a zeitgeist and people are craving kind of watching older stuff or stuff that they are familiar with. And yeah, good morning first and foremost, and before we go into that topic, I kind of want to talk about the movie that sparked this thought process. So 2 days ago I watched this YouTube video about the review / analysis of the 80s movie Sidekicks, starring Chuck Norris and the guy that played in the Neverending Story. I totally forgot his name. He unfortunately already passed away. And that movie is, again, I just want to kind of do a small little review about it and then kind of talk about nostalgia. So the movie is about this kid, the protagonist, who is somewhat of an outsider. He has a health issue where he has very strong asthma and asthma attacks. He always has to use this breather, and he has breathing problems, and he gets bullied quite a lot by the cool kids in the school. So a very known premise for the 80s kind of high school movies, and you could argue it's also kind of trying to ride the wave of the Karate Kid. But I feel like there are a couple of elements that not only make this unique, but also very interesting and stand apart from different movies. You could argue, and I would try to not spoil the movie, but since this is a very old movie, I potentially have to assume that some of you already know this movie. So hopefully I don't spoil it too much. Or at least, you will be interested to watch it anyways, despite maybe getting spoiled a little bit. So the movie centers around this kid that has this dream of being a martial artist. And Chuck Norris is his idol, and he really wants to be just like Chuck Norris. Because he has asthma and is getting bullied he has this somewhat coping mechanism where he goes into these daydreams, or you could also argue he gets bullied because he is daydreaming so much, and sometimes he speaks aloud and people around him notice that he is daydreaming and talking to Chuck Norris. So that is another reason why he gets picked on. So he always kind of jumps into these daydreams, and in this film you obviously see those daydreams where he is fighting alongside Chuck Norris and is in these adventures. And you could argue that the movie is really cheesy, but if you really think about it, and I actually needed that YouTube video that kind of analyzed this, I will link that video down below. These daydreams are from the perspective of a child or a youth or a kid that is dreaming of going on these adventures with his idol Chuck Norris. He's suddenly fighting martial arts or is in these war scenarios. And because this is from the perspective of a kid that is dreaming up these adventures, they are cheesy, they are a little bit over the top. The acting is totally over the top. But again, while you perceive this in the beginning as really cheesy, and then you kind of think about it, oh no, hold on, this is in the mind of this kid, of this teen. I don't know how old he's supposed to be. I think like 15 or something. Obviously his dream world is over exaggerated. He's not a filmmaker or screenwriter or something. So that is why he kind of over exaggerates everything in his mind, and these adventures and the execution of these characters in his dream world are totally over the top. And then you suddenly realize, okay, it's not cheesy, it's actually realistic. It's from the perspective inside the head of a kid, and then you kind of appreciate the, in air quotes, realism, because it portrays the mind of a child so vividly, and you kind of excuse the cheesiness of it. And that made me appreciate the movie so much more, because I switched it. I remember the movie and I did like it as a kid, but I also remember it being a little bit over the top and a little bit cheesy. Now, with a new perspective on that movie, I appreciate it so much more, and I can much more emphasize with the kid and him being bullied and being in a position where his asthma is getting so much in the way, and he's having this coping mechanism, escape mechanism, to be in this dream world with his idol, with Chuck Norris, fighting alongside, not having to deal with his asthma, not having to deal with his bullies. All of the bullies and everyone who's giving him a hard time are the villains in his daydreams. So you do see how he's coping with everything that happens in real life in his daydreams. And it's so much fun to watch this, especially once you kind of realize, oh, okay, that's what the intention was, to make this, in air quotes, very cheesy, and you appreciate that movie so much more. And now watching it, rewatching it, and they also made it in 4K. There was a Blu-ray version, so the image quality is actually fairly good considering it's such an old movie. And I had such a good time rewatching that movie yesterday. And yeah, this brings me back to the topic of nostalgia. I vividly remember watching the movie when I was younger, and now rewatching it, not only with the newfound appreciation for this movie, but also bringing back those memories. Because when I was a kid watching this, if you watched a couple of my vlogs previously where I kind of told you that I felt bullied, and I was bullied when I was younger because I was a very short, tiny kid, and my German wasn't as fluent as I would have liked. I was picked on, and I actually started Kung Fu because I was beaten up as a kid. So I started Kung Fu, and I trained martial arts when I was younger. It did help me out. So I was able to really relate to this movie Sidekicks. And now rewatching this movie, and I also love Chuck Norris. I think he was amazing, or still is amazing. I really liked the movies where he was in, like Quartermain. Quartermain. I think that was the movie, the name of the movie, I believe. A couple of Chuck Norris movies. So I was really able to relate to this kid and to the movie when I was younger. And now rewatching us brought back so many memories of my childhood, and left me with a really good feeling. And I think that is why people are nowadays craving so much nostalgia, for multiple reasons. First and foremost, the state of the world it isn't great. The politicians, the politics all over the world, be it in Germany, our chancellor. I don't want to get political in this, but we all, no matter on which spectrum of politics you are, we can all agree that it's not great, no matter if you are on this or on that side. then economics aren't great. We are all struggling with money. Work isn't great. We are all trying to, earn our living. Then socially, people, we are so divided at the moment, and I think it's so stupid. We all try to be, we're fighting for sides that are so stupid. I think this division between politics, between religion, between genders, it is so stupid. Can't we just agree that there are assholes and then there are not assholes? And it doesn't matter what gender they are, it doesn't matter what age they are. We don't need that separation. We can just say, okay, that person is an asshole. We can just agree that person is acting like a dickhead. It doesn't matter what gender he or she is. It doesn't matter what religion he or she is, what side on the politics. If that person, that human being acts like an asshole, he or she is an asshole. I don't need to create division in terms of what side of whatever that person might be. It doesn't matter. If it's an asshole, he or she is an asshole. That is enough for me. I don't need to create more division. We have so many problems: skin color, gender, as I said, politics, religion. Let's just agree that we are all human beings and it doesn't matter and what side we're on. As long as we respect each other, it's enough. And if someone is an asshole, we don't need to pinpoint what side that person is on. We can just agree on that person is an asshole. That's all we need. We don't need this division in our lives. So anyways, the world as it is really shitty. And we all want some form of escapism. We want something to kind of take our mind off things. And then at least I like to switch on some form of entertainment. Unfortunately, everything that is new, and one of my favorite examples, because I was a huge Star Wars fan, I was really disappointed watching many of the new Star Wars series. And it's not about politics, it's not about gender or representation. I'm a person of color, and I'm not going to blame any of those. The storytelling in all of those in most of those series was purely terrible. It wasn't great. There were filler episodes, there were storylines that were just stupid. And yes, you could argue, it's for children, but we see so many Pixar animatics where you can argue those are for children, but they write it in a way that adults can enjoy them too. And if you don't think of children as these stupid human beings just because they are small and you need to put in, for example, it's not in Star Wars, but for example, you need to put in fart jokes because you think that's funny for children. Yeah, it might be funny, but let's not kind of insult the intelligence of children. They can be smart, and you can make the storytelling and the humor appeal to children and to adults as well. Just be a little bit, put in a little bit more effort, and then you can kind of craft really good storylines. And with Star Wars, I felt like they were really lazy. They were lazy with these new Star Wars storylines, and that annoyed me. And then I invested 10 episodes, so basically so they are usually like 30 to 40 minutes. So let's say I invested 9 hours or 8 hours at least to watch that, and I wasted it. And it is so annoying that I wasted time for something that I basically didn't enjoy and want to watch. So that is, for me at least, the reason why one of the reasons why I'm kind of pivoting towards nostalgia. I'm just going to watch something that I just know I have been enjoying in the past, and I know what I'm up for the next 1 to, I don't know if it's a series, 1 to 10 hours. I just know what I'm going to get, especially also with series. I rewatched Breaking Bad for the millionth time because I just know it's a good story. It's a enjoyable time to watch. I just know what I'm up for. And then so that's the first reason. I'm not wasting time. And the second reason, as I said, the world is in a state that I personally am really sad about. And going into nostalgia is really helping to kind of evoke some positive feelings. I remember how I felt when I was a kid watching this. I just bought Goonies. I want to rewatch Goonies again. I just know, or I remember, or I anticipate that I will remember how I felt as a kid when I watched that movie. And I felt good about it. And also, all of these 80s movies, I am a filmmaker. I appreciate good storylines in newer movies. Meaning, for example, you understand the villain. You understand where that person is coming from, and it becomes a very complicated storyline as soon as you understand the villain, as soon as you kind of emphasize to some degree. You don't say it is a good reason to be that villain, but you kind of understand the point. And it's not only, okay, that person is evil, so that is the villain. So it gets really complicated, and I really like that storytelling is complicated or has become very nuanced. It's not only black and white, but sometimes your brain needs a somewhat relief. And these 80s movies, they were really basic. You have a jock that is bullying the school kid. You have a very clear, or something like Face Off or Con Air or The Rock. It is very, very clear cut. I'm not arguing that those movies are better than new movies. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it is very clear cut who is the villain, who is the good guy, who is winning at the end. And it's sometimes good, for my brain at least, to have a very easy storyline, that it's not challenging my, in air quotes, beliefs, you know? And sometimes, as I said, in the world that is really challenging us and really needing us to understand all of the sides, to understand where someone is coming from, because all of the conflicts that we are having at the moment and the division that we're having at the moment, at least from my personal opinion, are coming from a place where we fight each other and where we are not willing to listen, where we are not willing to understand the other sides. And yes, it is very stressful for some people to try to listen to the other sides, to try to kind of understand where other people are coming from. But I think it's important. And so for me, having sometimes these moments, and I personally try to do that as much as possible, to listen to the other side, to the other people, where they're coming from. That is also, as I just acknowledged, it is very mentally taxing sometimes. It is good to do that, but sometimes you just want to escape. And I think for me personally, going into these 80s movies that are very clear cut, that are very simple, it is good for me to just kind of switch off my brain. Also with gaming, again, going back to nostalgia, I love modern games. I love Witcher 3. I love Legacy of Hogwarts. But they do need a lot of time to carve out of my day. I just don't have the time, so I opt to go with my handheld device and play some retro games because it's easier for me to wrap my hand around Tetris and just switch it on for half an hour, or Super Mario or Kirby's Dreamland, and just play for half an hour. And that is the reason why I believe nostalgia is such a big part nowadays for people, just to kind of remember their childhoods. And I'm not saying, and again, I just know from some of my other videos, people are kind of criticizing me. Oh, you're saying 80s movies are better than new movies. Or why the hell are you playing these old games when you have like what's it called? Aya Neo, or a Steam Deck. Why are you playing those old games? Or people are saying, oh, back then nothing was better. And I totally agree. I grew up in the 80s. There was a lot of, and nowadays there's also still racism. Back then there was even more racism. It wasn't great. And my childhood wasn't great either. My parents lost their house. We were in huge debt and everything. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying back then everything was better. I'm just saying some memories or some things were just simpler and therefore easier for me to kind of help me to escape and kind of think of something else. And don't get me wrong, escapism isn't the solution. You need to kind of acknowledge and you need to kind of improve your world and whatever is going on. And I'm not saying rescue the world. I have this mentality of think globally, act locally. I rather help people around me and not kind of try to, force myself to change the world. I cannot change the world, but I can help people that are around me. But sometimes I need to kind of refresh my brain, kind of escape into a world that is either a movie, a series, a game, and just enjoy my time with those kind of forms of entertainment. And having those nostalgia moments, watching, playing, listening to old things that are bringing me back to my childhood, to my time in my youth, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and it's totally, in my humble opinion, understandable if you want to do so. So that was a really long talk. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your go-to forms of entertainment when you are craving nostalgia? What are your favorite movies, games, albums of music, books from your childhood or from your youth period that you are kind of consuming now as an adult, or you are planning to rewatch or re-listen to pretty soon? Let me know in the comment section below. And I've already done a video about nostalgia. Maybe check it out in the video up here. YouTube thinks that you like the video down here. Maybe like and hype this video. That always helps a lot. And also help me to get to 2,000 subscribers by clicking the button up here. Then we will see each other tomorrow in the next daily video. Thank you very much.